What if the most terrifying conspiracy about humanity isn't about a secret organization, but about something that isn't human at all? For decades, stories have circulated about beings known as the Reptilians. According to these claims, they are ancient extraterrestrial entities that have secretly influenced humanity for thousands of years. Some stories say they operate from behind the scenes. Others claim they manipulate powerful people, control hidden systems, and feed on human fear. And then there is an even darker claim. What if some of them are not simply watching humanity, but actually living among us? Tonight, we're going to follow one of the strangest stories ever told about Earth. A story involving reptilians, secret control, humanity's hidden history, and something called the Reptilian Walk-In. But before we decide whether any of this is real, we need to understand where the story comes from. The basic idea is disturbing, according to certain extraterrestrial and spiritual narratives. Reptilian beings have been present on Earth for thousands, perhaps even millions, of years. They are described as intelligent, technologically advanced beings capable of operating beyond ordinary human perception. Some versions of the story claim that these beings establish hidden systems of control over humanity, not necessarily through open invasion, but through manipulation, fear, conflict, power, greed, and division. The theory suggests that humanity may have been kept in a low state of consciousness, because fearful people are easier to control. Some versions of the theory even claim that ancient civilizations were influenced by reptilian beings, and that humanity's history contains evidence of their intervention. But if that were true, why would an extraterrestrial civilization need humanity at all? What exactly would they want from us? One of the strangest versions of the theory describes Earth as part of a massive hidden hierarchy. At the surface, there are ordinary people. Above them, families, organizations, corporations, political movements, governments, international institutions, and above those, according to the theory, something much harder to see, a hidden network of non-human intelligences. In some versions of the story, reptilians are not even considered the ultimate rulers. They are described as enforcers, observers, and manipulators, beings responsible for monitoring humanity, while something even higher supposedly directs the system. And that creates a terrifying question. If the people at the top are not actually at the top, then who is? But some of the most extreme claims go even further. According to certain extraterrestrial narratives, humanity itself may have been part of a much larger cosmic experiment. Some stories describe humanity as a specially created species, with unusually advanced potential, placed on Earth to develop and evolve. But then, something went wrong. According to the theory, dark extraterrestrial civilizations became interested in humanity. The reptilians were among them, and humanity became one of the most valuable targets in an ancient cosmic conflict. Some versions claim that humanity's original potential was gradually suppressed. Our consciousness was limited, our DNA was altered, and our perception of reality was manipulated. If you believe the story, we were not simply born into this world. We were placed inside a system, and that system was designed to keep us from remembering what we really are. But there is one problem. None of this has been scientifically established, and that distinction will become extremely important later. Now we reach one of the most disturbing claims. Some modern spiritual traditions describe something called walk-in. According to this belief, a human body can supposedly become occupied by another consciousness. In the darkest versions of the story, that consciousness is said to belong to a non-human entity. Imagine what that would mean. A person could appear completely human, speak like a human, live among humans, hold enormous influence, and yet, according to the theory, something else could supposedly be operating from inside. The frightening part is that the theory doesn't require an invasion. No spaceships, no armies, no public announcement, just substitution. One consciousness leaves, and another supposedly takes its place. But again, this is a spiritual and extraterrestrial claim, not an established scientific phenomenon. And that makes the next question even more interesting. Why do people believe stories like this in the first place, according to these narratives? The answer is fear. Fear creates division. Division creates conflict. Conflict creates instability. And instability makes people easier to manipulate. The theory suggests that humanity may have developed a culture that rewards domination, power, status, and competition, because these values were supposedly introduced or reinforced by an outside influence. Look at human history: wars, empires, political struggles, religious conflicts, economic competition, power concentrated into the hands of a few. The reptilian theory asks us to look at all of this and consider a disturbing possibility. What if these patterns aren't entirely human? What if someone or something has been encouraging them? But there is another explanation. Perhaps humans created these systems themselves. Perhaps violence and competition are not evidence of extraterrestrial manipulation, but simply part of human history. And this is where the mystery becomes difficult to separate from reality. Perhaps the most famous image of the reptilian theory is the shapeshifter, a human being who suddenly reveals reptilian eyes. Scales appear, the face changes, and for a brief moment, the real creature supposedly becomes visible. This idea has appeared in countless conspiracy stories. Some versions claim that powerful political figures, royalty, celebrities, and influential families are secretly reptilian hybrids, but there is an important distinction. Not every version of the theory claims that all reptilians are evil. Some traditions describe different reptilian factions, some hostile, others neutral, and some even protective of humanity. That creates a much more complicated picture, because the story is no longer simply humans versus reptilians. It becomes reptilians versus reptilians, light versus darkness, control versus freedom, and humanity caught somewhere in the middle. But once we begin labeling real people as non-human without evidence, the mystery turns into something else. It becomes accusation. And that is where a documentary has to stop and ask for proof. So far, no scientifically verified evidence has demonstrated that human shape-shifting reptilians exist. There is an unexpected twist in the reptilian story. Not every reptilian described in modern spiritual traditions is portrayed as evil. Some stories describe reptilian civilizations that have rejected violence, joined benevolent extraterrestrial alliances, and are actively helping humanity. They are described as highly advanced beings, capable of understanding consciousness, technology, and cosmic civilizations far beyond our own. In these versions of the story, humanity is not fighting an entire reptilian species. Instead, there are supposedly different factions. Some want control, others want freedom. Some are associated with darkness, others with what spiritual traditions call the light. And humanity, according to the story, is caught somewhere between them. If these stories were true, the greatest danger wouldn't necessarily be knowing that reptilians exist. It would be not knowing which side they are on. So, who is really controlling Earth? The reptilians? The draconians? The archons? A hidden human elite? Governments? Corporations? Or perhaps no single group at all? Some versions of the theory describe a vast interconnected hierarchy rather than one individual sitting at the top. Different groups, different levels, different forms of influence. And strangely, that may be the most believable part of the entire story, because real power rarely belongs to one person. It exists through networks, institutions, money, information, technology, political influence, and human behavior. The reptilian theory simply adds another layer, an invisible extraterrestrial layer, to that existing idea of power. But without physical evidence, we cannot know whether that layer is real. And perhaps that is exactly why the story survives. After following the story, we are left with a strange contradiction. The claims are extraordinary. Ancient reptilian civilizations, secret control systems, human manipulation, genetic interference, walk-ins, shapeshifters, and an invisible hierarchy supposedly operating behind human civilization. But extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And today, there is no scientifically verified evidence that reptilians secretly control Earth. No confirmed extraterrestrial civilization. No verified reptilian DNA. No scientifically documented walk-ins. No proven shape-shifting humans. So perhaps the reptilian secret is not that these creatures have already been proven to control humanity. Perhaps the real secret is why humanity has spent so much time imagining that something is controlling us. Maybe the monster is extraterrestrial. Maybe it is human. Maybe it is simply fear, turning the unknown into a face. But there is one final possibility. What if the most dangerous form of control doesn't require a reptilian at all? What if you can control humanity without ever being seen? By controlling what people fear, what they believe, what they watch, what they remember, and what they are willing to question. Maybe the real mystery isn't who is controlling Earth. Maybe the real question is, who controls the reality we believe we are living in? This is the Crystal Mind. We first listen to the story. Then we discover what is really behind it.